Let's learn something really quick.
If you got the time, absolutely. And you got the discipline, there's no question about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great practice to put into your everyday life, you guys.
You generally regret the things you don't do, not the things you did do. Let me say it that way.
Mic drop. This was just awesome. I love meeting my guests in person, and it's a whole nother animal, and the energy is just electric. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is the CEO of Empowered Leadership Coaching. She's also a career advancement and leadership coach based in the San Francisco Bay Area. She is also a sought-after keynote speaker, inspiring audiences with her insights on leadership, career advancement, and empowerment. And she is also an author, a new author book that is coming out here very soon. Please welcome Tabatha Jones. Tabatha, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Deanna. Looking forward to today's conversation.
Oh my goodness, me too. You've got quite the resume.
For sure.
And you've got a lot of experience in corporate America.
I do. I spent more than 20 years climbing the leadership ladder, 33 years in total in corporate. But most of that was climbing the leadership ladder and really learning some things the hard way and then creating processes for advancement, which is what I use now as I coach my clients and getting to their career goals.
That's amazing. So now I consider people like you're no longer in corporate. You're like a corporate refugee doing your own thing.
Absolutely. Corporate refugee is perfect. I call myself a corporate escape artist as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You took all your knowledge and your experience and you turned it into a business for yourself to help others, kind of learn from the investment you made in your career.
Absolutely. And it's so rewarding just seeing the lights come on for some ladies who are really stuck in their roles and not really understanding how to get positioned for advancement. I always say ladies, but I also say, and a few lucky men, because I do work with some men as well.
Yeah.
But really seeing those lights come on and being able to just spend my time doing what I love while helping these women get stronger and grow and really achieve those great career goals. I don't have to fill out a lot of reports or deal with a lot of performance management or, all of those things that come with big corporate jobs. And it's just so fulfilling. I love it.
I bet. So corporate is a different animal, right? I truly believe this is label free. And I really encourage anyone to live life on their own terms, whatever that looks like for them, right? We need people in corporate. We need people that are doing the 9-to-5 jobs that are out there and making these corporations work and move and hum and all that good stuff. And I'm sure like along that journey of people trying to get to the next level, they have a lot of labels they've put on themselves, probably labels that their coworkers or their bosses put on them. So someone like you to help them step out of that, like those self-limiting beliefs, to believe that they are worth that next level in the chain or whatever you want to call it, or on the ladder, that they can get there.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And you really hit the nail on the head. We need the people in corporate. I loved my corporate job for the majority of the time I was in it. But that label piece, we put so many labels on ourselves. And one of them that sticks with me and really resonated was, well, you can't lead tech teams. You're not technical. I guess who did? Guess who climbed the ladder leading technical teams? Because technical skills aren't necessarily your leadership skills. They're very different. You have to be able to do that translation. So when you say label free, one of the things I take away from people and pull away is that label of, I can only do this, or I have to do it this way, or I have to be like this person. You don't. You take in your authentic self and go all in. You can do whatever you want. It's just a matter of figuring out what that is.
Yeah. And I think that, you said there's a few lucky men that you work with, but I think women especially are a lot harder on themselves and have a harder time stepping into their power and their confidence in their skill set that they have.
I would absolutely agree. We also feel like we have to be perfect and we have to be the hardest worker and we have to know the most things and there's so many have tos, and it's really soul crushing when we put ourselves into that kind of a box, because it's the constant pursuit of perfection is what I call it. And we know there's no perfection. You've got to get to a point where you're just like, this is what I want and I'm going for it. You mentioned my book, and one of the very first chapters I write about the fact that working hard is the myth, right? It's the myth of hard work is what gets you promoted. The truth is you do have to work hard. Everybody works hard, but there's a lot of balance in that, and making sure that you're visible and building your confidence and being able to articulate and advocate for yourself in a way that demonstrates you know your worth, you know what makes you unique, and you know why you are of value to a company. So it's definitely one of those things that women have a harder time with than men.
Oh, for sure. So I really haven't been in corporate much. I was a little entrepreneur at 13. Then I had started working a little bit. Then I met my late husband, and then we had 5 businesses together. And then when he passed away, I had to get back into corporate. And so it is very hard to be a self-promoter without sounding arrogant when you're in the corporate world. Does that make sense?
Kind of. That's another part of my book. So I hear a lot.
Okay.
Especially, so I have clients that I work with in the job search space, and a lot of that is interview prep and getting that story out that really tells an interview panel what you can do and why they should hire you. And if I was paid $1 for every time I was asked, but doesn't that sound cocky?
Yeah.
I'd be like, girlfriend, there is not a man on this planet that asks that question. No, it doesn't sound cocky. You don't have the ability to.
Yeah. But that's
But we're
mostly
afraid.
that's mostly women that feel that way.
Absolutely. Men will just go out and say it.
They have no problem. My late husband was the biggest self-promoter on the planet. I was in awe of him. They don't hold back. And I think it's the way that they're delivered and the labels I think that we put on them as men that we expect them to be that way. But as women, to step into our power and into our voice in a way that's not going to make us like a bitch or take away our femininity is a very, like you mentioned, a very delicate balance. And so like I kind of want to unwrap or unpack how you teach or how you coach your clients how to be visible and stepping into their voice like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I wish we had all day.
Clip noted.
No, it starts with recognizing your own value. And that's where I start every client, right? First off, we go through their goals, kind of understanding that. But the next big piece is I want to know 50 things you're most proud of.
Yeah.
Because what happens as women is we just go do something, check it off the list, and go do the next thing. We don't ever stop and reflect on the impact that what we did, the impact of what we did, the value that it had on whomever, right? It could be something simple at home, like, yeah, I paid the bill today. Well, that bill made sure that everybody's cell phone stayed on, so your husband's business phone could still ring, and it, made sure that his client that was having a problem could get a hold of him urgently, or whatever, right? It translates into the business space where, I was leading a team that I'm trying to think one of the bigger accomplishments. So a quality assurance process.
Okay.
My coding team was having a lot of error, a lot of trouble. And so my boss said, hey, I want you to hire a quality team. Great. Well, in her mind, it was a manual quality team. In my mind, I was like, we don't do anything manual here. We're going to automate. We're going to build a process, going to hire the right people. So I did. So anyway, fast forward to what happened there. I hired the right people. I hired someone with a technical mindset. I hired someone with a quality assurance mindset.
Yeah.
What did we do? We changed that quality process from about a 67% accuracy rate to a 99.8% accuracy rate. The impact was our front line that was handling customer calls, they didn't have any more billing system issues. The customers' bills were accurate. I was able to articulate that. So being able to now teach a client, you've done all these great things. Now let's turn it into the story that you need to be telling.
Yeah.
And help you practice. And then once they start feeling that little boost of confidence and they've got that story, they've got stats and metrics, and they realize now what they've done and they're fully wide awake, send them on a visibility quest. No.
Okay.
That's getting out and making sure people know you, people that need to know your goals, people who need to know your success, and start getting comfortable talking about it. It's a fun transformation. It's probably more fun for me because I get to watch and I'm an extrovert. Not so fun for my introverted friends and clients, but it definitely starts opening those doors and building that confidence.
I love that. And so now, what are some of the transitions or the roles that you've helped people get into? So if they were here, where do they want to get to, and what did that look like for them?
All right. Well, let's think. So I'm going to go to a client named Susan.
Okay.
She was in a manager role. A lot of imposter syndrome was going on, a lot of comparison, hearing, I can't possibly do my boss's job the way she does. If she leaves, I wouldn't be the one to fill that role. And,
Oh, wow.
right. So we started through the 50 things. We worked through getting her story and really helping her understand what she does, helped her evolve as a leader. She really needed to elevate and get out of the weeds and lead her team through delegation and building trust and culture and all of that. Well, the next thing we know, she's invited to senior leadership meetings where she now has responsibilities for presenting, and she's connecting with these leaders after the meetings. And we got to a point, it was about 3 months in, and she said, I've outgrown my job. I said, oh, there it is.
Wow.
There it is. And so she ended up going through a reorg. Her boss left. She applied for the job, and it was a director level role. She didn't get it. But the interesting thing was that the person that was hired had a completely different skill set, which meant the department was shifting strategy.
Okay.
So another month later, another reorg, she applied for a role and was promoted from a regional manager to a division senior manager role.
Wow.
So much more responsibility, higher level, absolute confidence. She had people she was meeting with that were saying, I thought you were already a director. I thought you'd already been promoted.
Wow.
Just because she was showing up so differently in her work each day.
They had to reaffirm her, and just kind of help her, be more confident in her, just knowing that she has what it takes and people can see that. So I think that's important for people to acknowledge that we have those skill sets.
Absolutely. And in fact, she's so sweet. We stay in touch, of course. And she reached out and asked if I would be interested in speaking at one of their women's network events. And
Cool.
we just did. She's like, I want people to know this. And so she got on and told her story, which was really great to see. She would never have done that when we first started working together. So it was huge.
That is amazing. You also help people shift their career, right? So if they're in one position, then they're not happy there and they're looking to make a change. You also help coach them to get to that shift in their career.
I do. And a lot of what that looks like is repositioning resumes so that your skills that matter to the new role stand out. I had a client that was in the telecom industry for 20 plus years, wanted to transition into healthcare.
Oh.
And so we worked on complete transitioning the resume, translating her language because it didn't match from one industry to the other. And she was so sweet. She was ready to rip her hair out. And she said, I cannot get this panel to understand what I'm telling them. I do the work. I just did it in a different industry. And I said, well, whose job is it to explain that? Is it their job to interpret it, or is it your job to translate it? Darn it. And about 3 to 4 weeks later, she had a job in the healthcare industry. So it's just about a position shift and being able to translate your language into the new language. My most interesting transition was a client who was going from the music industry to global climate policy.
Oh.
I had no idea what any of that meant. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
Actually, it was a really interesting story. His mom hired me. She said he's going after this job. It doesn't pay any money. He doesn't have any confidence, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I ended up working with him. He interviewed so well that they offered him a position above what he interviewed. So it's all about that translation and building the confidence and saying, I know this. I just need to use different words or different skill strengths.
I love how smiley you are talking about it. And that's one thing that I think that you help people recognize is that your skills are transferable, right? And so if you have been strong in these different areas in your career in this role, you could easily transfer those strengths, those skills into another position. And I like how you said you got to translate the language. That's interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, I can see how just because you worked here and have these skills doesn't mean you wouldn't be applicable for this. You just got to translate it. It's like speaking, you're going to go to Germany, you got to speak German.
Exactly.
And have it translated.
Exactly. And that's what it takes, getting into people's heads so they can see you in that role. It's just so interesting how many women and men that I speak to when I say, well, because I'll ask them for the positions they're applying for, send me the job posting. Let's take a look. I want to make sure you're prepared for this interview, get your resume right and all of that. And the number of people who will say, well, I'm changing industry, so I need to start at the bottom. You don't. You don't need to go from a $200,000 salary to $70,000 a year to get your foot in the door. You're wasting your time. And P.S., they're not going to hire you for that role because your resume says I was an executive director and now you're applying for an analyst role.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I have a client going through this right now. We were on the, hey, you need to stop applying for those jobs. They pay $27 an hour. And then she just had her third interview for a company where the salary is over 100.
Good for her.
Stop wasting your time. It takes the same amount of time to apply.
Yeah. Do you think that when someone is trying to change industries and, transition into something new, that they feel like they're lying or a phony or an imposter if they haven't come from that industry? That's where I think imposter syndrome, I think, might come in, is where it's like even though you have all the skill set, you're moving from music to global, whatever, and like you would feel maybe like I'm not qualified because I've never been in that industry. So you feel like an imposter, although you have the skills.
Absolutely. And so that's why we'll work through it and talk about the experience and then translate those examples into something that makes sense. So my thing is we are always honest, but we elevate our responses and we make sure that we are translating so that it aligns with the industry and level you're interviewing for.
I love it.
But imposter syndrome is very huge, especially if you've interviewed or you've submitted. A lot of people haven't even made it to interviews, right? They're submitting tons of resumes, no interviews. That tells me instantly there's something on your on your resume that we need to update first. Yeah. And then we need to go into making sure that your language aligns.
Yeah, for sure. What does the process look like working with you? If someone's listening to this or watching this and they're like, you know what? I need Tabatha in my life. I'm looking to change careers. I'm looking to elevate my position. What would that look like for them?
We always book a call because it's important to me that we are a good match personality-wise, that we have a great, energy. I know that the job search and sometimes career advancement can be pretty self-defeating. So we need to know that we can work together to get you moving forward. So I always host a 20-minute call, ask a lot of questions. So I always say, come prepared with a glass of water because we're going to talk a lot. And then we decide from there, is this a good fit? Sometimes we find I just need to send this person a resource to get them on their way. Sometimes we'll figure out, oh, absolutely, we're a great match. And then I will create a plan or recommend a group program for that person. So I have group, which is a little more standard. It's personalized, but more standard sessions. And one-on-one, which is a lot more customized. So a client who has some specific struggles or things that they want to talk about, that they're not as comfortable in a room full of people, then we work through that.
Yeah. Do you think in today's world where, the COVID really changed things, right? It really shook up the workplace. They saw the great resignation, whatever. And a lot of people were like really like looking at their lives and like, okay, I need to change directions. And, we've heard, it's hard to find good help. I mean, I hear locally in Chicago, at the lower end and at the higher end, but applying is not always the easiest thing. Do you think that there are things that people could do to help them stand out a little bit more throughout that resume or the application process?
A lot has changed in the hiring process over the past just 2 years, I would say. And the people who are struggling the most are mostly what I call my Gen X sisters, my Gen Xers, where we haven't maybe looked for a job in a long time or haven't had to interview in a really long time. What has changed is there's a lot of AI in the background now. So when you submit a resume to a company, 1,000 people are submitting. There's an AI screening tool that's going through and making decisions, basically the first cut, right? So making sure that your resume language aligns with the job posting. And it's not as hard as it sounds. There's actually some really quick ways to do it if you use a very simple strategic resume format. The next piece is making sure that simple strategic resume format really attracts the hiring manager's attention. And the best advice I can give you on that is don't bury your details. A busy hiring manager is doing their day job. They're probably doing the job of the person they're replacing, and they're working on replacing that person. So having a resume where your skills are very easy to spot, your top accomplishments are listed with stats and metrics. There should always be a top 3 to 5 relevant, important accomplishments. And then clear bullets outlining your work experience, again, including stats and metrics.
Yeah.
And if you're a leader or going after a leadership role, including those leadership skills, because I can't tell you how many resumes I look at and I'm, Are you applying to be an analyst or an engineer? Are you applying to lead that team? What is it? So making sure that you don't forget to lead with your leadership.
What about women or men that haven't applied for a job in a while? Like they have been unemployed, like their spouse is taking care of things at home. Now it's time for them to get back to work. And, I know from experience, when I was looking at resumes in my past leadership position and there was a gap in their work history, that was a red flag for me then. I don't know if it would be now just because the world has changed a lot, but what have you worked with people like that?
I have. And what I will ask is, what were you doing during that time? And sometimes it's something like parental care. Well, you know what? Some of that experience, though it was not paid, it is experience that may count toward the industry you're going into. Volunteer work is work experience. Anything you do with your church organization or other communities or organizations that you're part of, that's work experience. It counts. You can put that on your resume. I've been asked multiple times, well, I wasn't paid for that. Can I put? Yes, you can put it on your resume as work experience. With gaps, it's hopefully less of a standard to ask, what were you doing during that time? But it still comes up. So be prepared to talk about it. Were you taking classes? Were you doing something that helped elevate or keep your knowledge straight or strong? There are so many free classes available on LinkedIn. You can just, hey, I've been taking these classes. Nobody needs to know how long that took or, anything. As long as you were learning and you've stayed sharp on your skills, it's going to work for you.
I love that. That's awesome. Again, I think that gives people, anyone that's listening that may have had that experience, it gives them a little hope that it's not hopeless. You can put some stuff on there and fill those gaps. Where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more of working with you?
So LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. I would love to have anyone who's interested in connect with me there. I'm Tabatha with all A's, Tabatha Jones. I also have a website. It's empowered-leader.com. Those are really the best ways to catch me. And I would love to meet anyone who's looking to make a career change or wanting to grow or even improve their leadership. Absolutely love talking about all these things.
I love it. Yes. And the name of your book that just was released.
I just got my author copy. It is Promotion Ready in 3 Months, The Women's Guide to Career Advancement.
Awesome.
And will be absolutely on Amazon very soon.
Yes, it will. You guys, I'm going to put all those links in the show notes, so don't hesitate to go click the links. Schedule a call if you're interested in talking to her a little bit more about elevating your career or your leadership skills, whatever that might look like for you. Obviously, she's a great resource, and she would love to hear from you. Tabatha, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
I would say just don't stay stuck. If you are feeling a little stuck, you're feeling a little fearful of making a change and going after a big goal that you want, don't sit there too long. Time will continue to pass by, and there's so many quick and easy strategies that you can implement. Just one tiny action is all it takes to get you moving forward again.
I love that. Don't get stuck. That's right. Life is going to happen with or without you, so you better get it moving.
That's right. It's moving.
Thank you so much for sharing what you do and how you help people elevating their career and their leadership and, maybe making a transition into a new role. I think that it's very powerful, and I think that necessary, especially when some people might feel a little lost or feeling like they're not worthy, because we are worthy. We just have to have those stepping stones or someone guide us to the other side of what that feeling is. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was so great.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with some more dynamic guests.